Is the audio live? Okay, good. The audio's live, so if you're looking at the screen, you're looking at a blank screen that says we're going to start in 8 minutes. The reason 8 minutes is not because Victor is ridiculously slow. He's trying to sync up Facebook, YouTube, Vimeo, Dr. B VIP, and some small group of islands in the South Pacific. I don't know. So if anybody has any questions that will get by the censors, let me know. Not you that are watching this live. Yes, ma'am.
I don't have a question, but today I learned, looking at my x-ray, that I have, a leaky gut, and I said, how do you know? And he showed the dark spots on the side, and that shows leaky gut.
Okay, so the question was just posed. How can you see a leaky gut on x-ray? Because you were told that you had a leaky gut, but how could you do it? Okay, that's actually kind of cool, because we're going to be talking about digestion. When you're looking at the x-ray, bowel gas is normal. Okay, there's going to be a bunch of it. Now, in the small intestine, there shouldn't be a lot of gas in there, because you got a hell of a lot of acid coming out of the stomach. And so bacteria and stuff are going to be suppressed unless they're like sequestered inside of a food product or something, some kind of, nut or meat or something. But in the large intestine, the intestinal tract should be about the diameter of a stool, not what you're sitting on, what comes out, okay? And you should see an ascending colon up on one side. You should see a little bit larger thing on the bottom right. That's the cecum. And then the transverse colon. But transverse colons are supposed to, classically go across. But since most people are in a stressed state, they're not producing a lot of healthy stomach acid, so the integrity of their bowel gets loose. And you'll see the intestinal tract, or the transverse colon, go way, way down below the belly button almost, and then it gets all twisted up. Plus, the way human beings are designed to breathe, moving in the gut, but now we breathe in through the chest. But if you're diaphragmatic breathing, you're always massaging those organs, okay? And then they get healthier because you're moving the lymph flow around. Then it goes down to the descending colon, and then to the sigmoid colon, and it's called sigmoid colon because it's an S shape. And then it goes out the rectum. You can't really see the rectum because that's usually behind the bladder and, a bunch of the other stuff. Yep. Uh-oh. Oh, no shit. How'd you get a question?
Comment.
Oh, how cool. Okay. Yes, I'm new to this. Okay, Victor just has it. From K Cisco Kid. Hello, I'm not sure if you're going to get this message or this question, but I've been suffering from gut dysbiosis, parasites, and Lyme disease for a while. I don't want to take a prescription for it, but... Okay, good. Oh, Cisco Kid. Oh my God. Okay, the Cisco Kid is like one of the best characters in the old comedy westerns. Okay, Kid. When you're looking at the gut dysbiosis, comes from an abnormal gut flora. And gut flora is composed of a tremendous amount of bacteria, funguses, yeasts, everything in there. Candida, all that stuff is normal. But when Candida overgrowth occurs, that's because you're damaging or you're creating a non-competitive environment. It's like an ecosystem. Like if you've seen Marlin Perkins' The Wild Kingdom, okay, you're supposed to have all these different bacteria. And the Aboriginal cultures had 30,000 different types of bacteria inside of the gut. So get a huge amount of different bacteria from different sources. So like, people will say, well, I eat sauerkraut. Okay, great. Get it from 4 different manufacturers. Make it your own, okay? Get organic juices. Don't wash just rinse the vegetables so there's some healthy bacteria on there. Look at all the bacteria that you can get, and also look at the soaps that you use. Make sure you're not using antibacterial soap. Just regular soap works, because most soaps have triclosan in it, which is an antibiotic. And stay away from the stupid hand sanitizers that have antimicrobial products in there, because it destroys the normal flora on top of the skin. And anything you put in the skin gets in the gut. But look at every other medication. Like tonight we're talking about it. Advil, Motrin, Aleve damage the gut flora. Commercially produced bread damages the gut flora because it's soaked in glyphosates. Commercially produced animals damage it. Most pesticides are estrogen based, but then if you look at some of the meat products, okay, that are out there, they're eating BT corn, which is supposed to be just for animal feed, that it has an insecticide in it that destroys the digestive tract of insects. It's not supposed to be put in the human population, but it survives the cow's digestion, the cooking process, the mom's digestion, and they're finding it in umbilical cords in kids. So when you're looking at what you're eating, you could be saying, well, it's only a commercially produced steak. How could that damage my gut flora? That's how it could damage the gut flora. You know, grass-raised, grass-finished, grassed, everything, you know, that's going to be a safe animal. But build up the gut flora, get as much fermented foods as you can. Don't worry about the Lyme disease. Strengthen the immune system. It's not from a tick. And when you look at Lyme, anybody know where Lyme got its name? Lyme, Connecticut. Yeah, it's just a location, okay? And the Lyme disease is like corona. I mean, it's used to be from a tick, then it became sexually transmitted, then it's from kissing, touching, holding, breast milk, good God. No, just it's a weakened immune system. So strengthen your immune system, don't need to worry about it. Look at the physical, chemical, and emotional stress, and that will help. Because if you have gut dysbiosis, there's a gut-brain connection, and this is going to cause an emotional problem as well. Okay, was that pretty good? Hey, that was totally cool. Okay, so we're going to do this because we do this every week. And Victor Sharp, okay, he'll be able to get a question and hopefully I'll be able to answer it in time. Because we have 2 minutes or 1 minute and a half. Of course, Sarah is a rock. She's never nervous or upset. She's going to slowly walk up here, and she walks especially slowly because she knows I'm nut for time, and I like to start precisely at 7. And okay, just check her out. Okay, you would not want to play poker with this gal. She is a rock. She has no telltales. And I've seen her with, 27 people, 3 or 4 phone calls, and she is smooth. She's typing it in, and Victor and her are working in conjunction. That one's on? Okay, bitchin'. 15 seconds. 14, 13, 11, 10. Almost. Mission Impossible, when they say this tape will self-destruct in 10 seconds, how many people counted down the 10? Wait, it was only me. Oh, we're live? Good. We're live. Welcome to True Health Tuesday, and the truth will set you free. It's kind of fun because this pendulum is swung to our communist America now. It's going to swing back, and we're going to get health and freedom coming up. Today, we're talking about digestion. Now, this is super important because when you look at digestion, your body is in a continual state of regeneration, okay? And you're only alive because you're able to take proteins and break them to amino acids, fats to fatty acids, and carbohydrates to usable sugars. But digestion really isn't thought of as important. Now, we're going to cover all the stuff that we'll get by the current censors, because if you're under the impression that we used to have a freedom of speech, that is protected by our Constitution, except our government the Constitution is also to keep the government in check, but that's not working. So we now have to censor ourselves, otherwise we'll be deleted from social media and eventually we'll be deleted from society. So to protect our information and to save lives, Dr. B VIP. Okay, it's going to be streamed on live. If you're on there already, God bless you. Thanks for the support. This takes a huge effort, and Victor does not work for free. It's also eventually going to be put on Extreme Health Academy. It's not there yet, but I'm trying to work it out with Justin so where he can get it. And the key thing, too, is you're going to get the handouts that we can't show, okay, because that's censorable information. So digestion, okay, this is one of the classes. Okay, when the world comes back to normal, we're going to completely change the school system. Because if you were growing up and one of the classes was how your body works, okay, wouldn't that be a trip? I mean, think of it, okay? So digestion begins when you smell food. That's right. Okay, now you may have heard Pavlov's dog, you know, he rings a bell, feeds the dog, rings a bell, feeds the dog, rings a bell, doesn't feed the dog, and the dog salivates. So it's trained to that. Well, he also measured stomach acid. Had a dog smell chicken, produced an acid. Lamb, different acid. Beef, different acid. That's how human beings work too. So digestion begins in the nose. You got an exposed piece of bone called, or brain called an olfactory bulb that senses these particles coming off, and then your body prepares that digestion. I mean, just imagine taking a lemon, you just cut it in half, and you can smell that lemon, and all of a sudden you bite it in hard. Did your mouth water? Okay, good, just checking. So we're all Pavlovian dogs. Now, when you eat this stuff, okay, mastication, you break it up. It begins in your mouth. And now this is going to start to break those fibers into separate carbohydrate, fats, and proteins. Now, carbohydrate digestion begins in the mouth. So you have all of these glands in there that are going to secrete these salivary amylase, where it starts to break down the carbohydrates. But the literal chewing part actually works. Then you swallow it. And then there's this peristaltic wave that pushes food down through the esophagus. And then it falls into the stomach. And we're going to cover all of these in detail. But that stomach closes off because there's a ton of acid in there. And there's enough acid inside of the stomach that you could pour it on this plastic table and it'll burn right through. Heck, it'll melt metal. I mean, it's hydrochloric acid and pepsid. It's amazing. And then it goes out of the stomach into the intestinal tract in an area called the duodenum. Now, the duodenum's got the pancreas there, so it has to alkalinize the system because you don't want that acidic contents to get in the small intestine. It can break it down. And then the gallbladder's there, so it starts to break down the fats. So carbohydrate digestion begins in the mouth, proteins and fats go into the duodenum. And then it goes out through the intestinal tract, and as it changes its pH, it starts to absorb, and it absorbs right through the intestinal wall into the system called the portocaval system. And the system is redundant, okay? Because if any of these systems are blocked, okay, that means that you can't break those proteins to amino acids, fats to fatty acids, and carbohydrates to usable sugars. You die, okay, because you got to continually regenerate your body. And so there's secondary and tertiary where nutrient, if any of those portal systems are damaged or blocked, it'll dump that nutrient-rich blood into the regular system without going through the enzyme factory, which is the liver. And then when you're all done with most of the digestion, it dumps into the large intestinal tract, and then this is where bacteria start to break down. Certain nutrients, B vitamins are produced there. I mean, it's amazing. And then when you're all done drawing all the nutrients out of this, then it leaves your body. So it's really an open tube from here to here. And you can tell that the way politicians are talking. Now, I know, it's kind of reversed. A lot of shit comes out, okay? So, but the nervous system controls it. Now, we have two halves of this automatic nervous system. One part keeps you alive under stress, and the other part regenerates tissue. That regeneration tissue is called rest, digest, and repair. Because when you're resting, that's when your body is super metabolically active. You're killing 1 billion cells a day, destroying them, and you're building 1 billion cells a day. And so that destruction and build-up process the destruction is just as important as build-up. Okay, so if that nervous system is imbalanced, then your body will shut blood supply down to the gut. So like, let's say you want to run away from a tiger, the blood is going to rush to your arms and legs. Well, where does it come from? It comes from digestion. And so if you're in a chronic state of stress, you got decreased nerve supply to that digestive tract, and you're going to have malabsorption, you're going to have bloating, you're going to have slow gastric motility. So, what's one of the things I ask all my patients? Okay, how many bowel movements a day? Every day, usually 1. And it's supposed to be 2 to 3. Okay, it's like the old Woody Allen movie. How often do you have sex? Constantly. It's like once a week. And the other person says never. It's like once a week. So this, when you're looking at digestion, this is an amazing system. The food enters this. Now, when you look at the stomach has a unique structure and a layout. it has this mucus layer that's always working. Now, when I say that there's acid produced in the stomach so great that it'll burn through a nail, it'll literally melt a nail, why doesn't it digest itself? Do you want to know why? It does. It does. The body secretes this mucus layer from these goblet cells. It's amazing. It always protects it. Now you might think, wait a second, hydrochloric acid, what's the cell made of that produces that? It's human tissue. But you got the chlorine ion in one, the hydrogen ion in the other. It spits it out at exactly the same time, so the hydrochloric acid forms away from the cell, and then this breaks it down. So you have these stimuli. And I know what you're thinking. God, that sounds almost intelligent. I know. Can you imagine? This is why we got to have this class, okay? And we got to have this class for kids, and I'm talking in first grade, so that they understand the stuff they put in their system. It is literally going to become themselves. And this process is so gosh darn important. That if you don't appreciate that what you put in your system, now that entire system, this is where the broccoli goes, this is where the banana goes, this is where the apple or steak or chicken or Tylenol or blood pressure drug or lisinopril, cholesterol drugs, they all go through this system, okay, and they can have a positive or negative effect. So what you put in your mouth becomes you if you can break it down and digest it. Now, you've got a muscle on top of the stomach that closes off the acid. Now, this is hugely important because you have a tremendous amount of acid. Now, the hydrochloric acid and the chief cells are producing pepsin. Both are extremely caustic, but since you've got a different layer on the inside of the stomach, it's not going to break it down. So when you have the presence of acid in that stomach, the muscle on top of the stomach, which is at the bottom of the esophagus, that's what they call it, the lower esophageal sphincter, okay, tightens up to maintain so that it's like a bag that sloshes this acid around that breaks it. Now, that the muscle that tightens up the stomach is triggered by the presence of acid. Now, in crazy stupid world, you would take an antacid to stop reflux. However, that's why, if you look, well, here's one. The proton pump inhibitors, the antacids increase esophageal cancers. How does that work? I thought that was to protect it. Well, because this is stupid world. See, when you have acid in the stomach, the muscle tightens up. When you have low acid in the stomach, the muscle loosens up. So if you're drinking water with your meals, okay, you're going to have more acid splashing up inside of that esophageal area. Okay, if you take an antacid, it will decrease the symptom, but it's going to cause long-term problems because without acid in the stomach, you can't absorb minerals. Without minerals, you can't utilize vitamins. So you can see that you start using these proton pump inhibitors, it's going to cause a cycle of death and destruction in your body. Because if you decrease the acid without the minerals, you're also talking cardiac arrhythmias, you're talking a lot of different functions. So wait a second. We're only alive because your body is able to digest things. Your body is able to extract protein, fats, and carbohydrates, okay, out of the food that you're taking in. If you limit that production, that production of the protein, fats, and carbohydrates, you limit the availability of that, then your body will decline. That means if you interrupt digestion, which is how your body is supposed to function by using a proton pump inhibitor, because the doctor is smarter than your own physiology, the things don't work out well. Okay, then what do we got? We got a population that's got a ton of bowel disorders, a ton of tissue production problems. And this is the hugest thing, because when you're looking at name any condition out there, it's usually a tissue production problem. And I'm talking scleroderma, I'm talking ankylosing spondylitis, I'm talking anywhere that flexible, strong ligaments, okay, are replaced with bone, okay, or it ossifies it. That is a tissue production problem. But in our crazy world, the doctors that prescribe these drugs, yes, they are trained by the pharmaceutical industry. Yes, they are. Don't ask questions like that. Okay? They're not trained with normal physiology. They're not trained that the body is intelligent, responds intelligently to this. So what happens if you do this? Well, the FDA, the Fraud and Deception Association, fully funded by the pharmaceutical industry. Oh, wait, this is not the uncensored portion. Okay, I'm sorry, Mr. Fact Checker. I really meant Food and Drug Administration. Yeah. Of course, they were called the Chemistry Board before they were called the Food and Drug Administration, and they were the liaison from the chemical industry to the public to assure the public that their products were safe. Okay, Mr. Fact Checker, thank you, sir. Okay, however, if you take one of these proton pump inhibitors, cardiac arrhythmias, muscle spasms, convulsions, seizures, cognitive decline, DNA production, type 2 diabetes increase. Doesn't this sound kind of like our society today? It does. Why? And this only happens from decreasing the acid. Why decreasing the acid? That means you're not going to get the minerals, you're not going to get the amino acids, you're not going to have the building products. It's like, holy, okay? Now, long-term stress or decreased goblet cell production, because remember, you got these cells, chief cells and parietal cells, producing this hydrochloric acid and pepsin, and this is secreting a massive acid, but you got these goblet cells in there that are always secreting this mucus layer that protects it. So under chronic stress, what do you think is going to happen? Like, let's say you get the typical guy eating at the back of the coffee truck, okay, just gets a quick burrito, okay, and runs in there. Is he resting and digesting and breaking down the nutrients? No, so he's setting himself up for malabsorption, okay? And the body, if you're not going to break down and utilize those nutrients, it's going to store it. So what are we looking at? Belly, seat, and thigh weight distribution. So hugely important. Now, this is kind of neat. The stomach is here. This duodenum is C-shaped, and the pancreas fits right inside of there. Now, the pancreas and gallbladder drain through the same opening. The amphitheater or ampulla of Vater, okay, goes right in there. Now, there's super acidity that comes out. Now, I heard this one doc, and it was kind of funny. He said, it doesn't matter if you're eating vegetables or meat. It all comes out of the stomach at the same acidic or same pH. And he's right. He's right. The problem is when you're done with digestion, if you're eating a ton of animal products, the residue is acidic and your body's got to alkalinize it. And if you're eating a ton of vegetables, the residue after digestion is alkaline. So, you know, your body, when you're in a stressed state, we tell people, hey, look, eat more plants. Okay, but now when you get that duodenum and the pancreas is inside of there, as soon as fats hit that duodenum, the gallbladder's ready. It stores and concentrates bile, and as soon as there's fat or sensors in there, that fat's in there, that gallbladder contracts and emulsifies those fats and breaks it down. Now you might be saying, well, where does the bile come from? Well, you got this spleen, and the spleen is a blood filter part of the immune system, and it's checking every red blood cell, because red blood cells only last 120 days. Does that mean every 6 million red blood cells that each guy has, okay, has got to be replaced every 120 days? Yes, it does. Does that mean we have to have a shitload of amino acids to keep building those? Yes, it does. Does that why we pray over our food because our food becomes us? Yes, it does. Okay, well, I mean, that's old school, but, you know, it sounds good to me. Okay, so when you're looking at this, you need that production. Now, the spleen is looking at each red blood cell. The ones that aren't viable, it passes over to the liver, so the liver can break down those proteins and the blood constituents into bile. Okay, and then that stores and concentrates and emulsify the fats. Do you want to know where gallstones come from? Okay, this is kind of cool, because I did human dissection for about 8 years. So I had a jar of gallstones. No, Victor, don't look at me that way. It was not a hobby. I thought they were interesting. Okay, they're super light, okay? And when you slice them open, they actually have crystallized, it's like epinephrine, norepinephrine. They're the stress hormones, cortisol. And that's what forms them. It's because you're storing and concentrate this blood constituents, and the hormones that actually have their function when they're done, they're in the blood. And if you have a lot of them, when it stores and concentrates it, they form these little rocks. That's why under people with stress, we'll look and we'll see gallbladder sludge, and we'll actually do a soft tissue move to decrease that sludge to prevent any gallstones. So they're all secreting through the same opening. Now, if you've had a barbarian that removed your gallbladder, yeah, that's appropriate, right, Doc? It's not really a doctor would do that because they know that the gallbladder is essential. They do things to give you health to the gallbladder. Okay, yeah, only a barbarian would rip it out. So let's say you do rip out the gallbladder, okay? Now, you don't have anything to store and concentrate the bile, but the bile production is still going to be there. So it's constantly dripping into the duodenum, which can cause duodenal ulcers. So if you have had your gallbladder ripped out, you do have to increase your fat intake, so a little bit of fat all day long, so that the bile isn't just hitting the inside of the duodenum, breaking down the duodenal tissue. Does that make sense? I know. Play it back at half speed, it'll all make sense. Flora, you need bacteria, you need viruses, you need molds and funguses and everything. The bacteria, this is 80% of your immune system. You got 2 to 3 pounds of bacteria in the intestinal tract, okay? Except when you're in a hyper sterile environment, like I just read an article on astronauts that's a trip. They've got tons of skin conditions, and sometimes it lasts years afterwards because they don't have good normal flora on the inside. They're not eating bacteria-containing foods up in the space. I mean, there's a lot of things that are bad. So look at bacteria completely different. Now we're in a bacteria and viral phobic environment because the programming that's on TV is literally programming you to be afraid of everything so you can buy more pharmaceutical products, I think. I mean, you know, wait, no, they do sponsor it, so that does make sense. Viruses, you have, what, 70 trillion cells, you got 100 trillion bacteria, you got 4 quadrillion viruses. Without those viruses, you die. You need the viruses, you need the bacteria. You are designed to live on this planet. If you look at some of our videos on viruses, bacteria, funguses, I mean, there's a communication pathway. That's what viruses do. They transfer information. We're going to cover that on the second half that the censors will not like. So what kind of things can disrupt your microflora? Now the microflora, this protects you from the environment. This is part of your immune system, 80%. So anything that would disrupt your microflora would be bad, okay? Yeah, like disease, death, you know, destruction. So antibiotics, that's an obvious one. Vaccinations, that's another one. Medications, that's another one. Processed foods. Interesting. Now, what kind of things, what kind of non-antibiotic drugs could possibly affect it? Because, you know, you might say, well, you know, I never have any antibiotics. And we actually had a patient with a small mouth infection, okay, a week after her dental procedures, and one of the new doctors on staff in Tijuana recommended an antibiotic. Now she was freaked out because she spent like 6 months building her gut flora, and she knows for a local infection that you know, it would be a problem. So I took the doctor aside because they're trained by the pharmaceutical industry. They're not trained with common sense. And I said, okay, tell me 5 different effects that this antibiotic will have on her. First thing the doctor said is gut dysbiosis. Okay, so gut dysbiosis means you're destroying the healthy gut flora, and this is 80% of the immune system. How would this solve an infection? Well, it might kill some bacteria and help the immune system go. Wait, you're killing 80% of the immune system, or you can decline that. Do you understand? That doesn't make a lot of sense. Okay, give me 4 other things that's going to happen if you prescribe the antibiotic. And she went through, and I said, okay, so now we don't do this stuff like a hospital where you give a drug, cause a problem, and then give another drug to fix that problem, okay? And then hope that the immune system, you know, that's actually designed to live here will survive all that crap. So what kind of drugs damage the gut flora? Pretty much every drug out there. So you're talking blood pressure, asthma, steroids, anxiety medications, antibiotics, antidepressants, osteoporosis medications, pain relievers, that's Advil, Motrin, Aleve, all the non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, cholesterol medications, everything. I mean, it's like, wait a second. We have a digestion. It begins when you smell stuff. It goes in your mouth, down your esophagus, into your stomach, through your intestinal tract, and then it has to be filtered through the wall in the intestinal tract into the liver. It goes from the liver to the heart, from the heart to the lungs, from the lungs back to the heart, and then out to the rest of the body. This is how your system works. This is how you get nutrients in the system. It's got to go through the liver or the enzyme factory. Okay, that's what the liver is. So does the Advil. So does the Tylenol. So does every chemical that the pharmaceutical industry has built. It has to go through this process. Now this process, if this doesn't work right, neither do you. You develop different conditions. And how can you tell which condition these are? Look at the effects of the drugs. No, they're not side effects. Don't give me that look, okay? They're effects. You only have effects, okay? And so look at this. Why? Because those are mostly tissue production problems. Cholesterol drugs damage the gut flora, no kidding. They also damage the brain and increase cancer risk. Ulcers. Now, when I was a little tiny baby chiropractor going to school, they had just, no, okay, I wasn't that little. Okay, when I was a little baby chiropractor going to school, okay, so they had stories of this Australian doctor who found this bacteria that lived in the stomach, and everyone said, no, it's too acidic, no bacteria can live in there. And it's called Helicobacter because it looks kind of like a helicopter on the back. And so sure enough, he found it, drank a vial of this, gave himself an ulcer, drank an antibiotic, took the ulcer away, and all of a sudden, wow, it's coming from this bacteria. Except it's not. See, we got normal flora. This is what kind of things that cause Helicobacter is not a cause. That's an opportunistic bug, and that's what every bug that you're living in harmony with is. Pain relievers, other medications. Now, when they say causes of peptic ulcers are pain relievers, why would a pain reliever cause an ulcer? Well, for one, you're taking it for why? You're in pain. Okay, I know, it wasn't a trick question. It's like going, holy shit, I think I know the answer. I'm not raising my arm. Okay, I know, I've been there. Okay, I know. Okay, so yeah, if they're hurting, what's going to happen? You're in the sympathetic dominant state. You got decreased nerve supply to the gut. So if you're in a chronic stress state, that makes sense. Plus the chemicals you're taking in can alter your physiology. That makes sense too. So if you have an overabundance of this Helicobacter, now it can be found in 50%. I've seen recent studies now, it's up to 90%. So it is a normal flora. But if you drink a vial of this, do you have that normal amount, or is it an excessive amount? It's an excessive amount, okay? So that's why it's an overabundance, because we need that normal flora in there to balance out the system. Now, I love this. It's not clear how H. pylori spreads. It may be transmitted from person to person, close contacts such as kissing. People may also contract H. pylori through food and water. The American College of Gastroenterology. Okay, yeah, this is foolishness. Okay, it's everywhere. It's normal flora. Okay, when we look at the psychotic nature of wearing double masks, gloves, don't hug or protect your neighbor because you can catch it. Okay, do you remember the cold you caught like 2 years ago? Did anyone run up to you in this panicked fashion and say, who gave it to you? No, you got to earn it, man. You got to have a physical, chemical, or emotional stress in order to develop a weakened immune system in order for it to grow. So this is all psychotic BS. Okay, you're not going to catch something like this. It's part of the normal flora. Now, when you look at it, 70% of the people that have it are asymptomatic. The recent studies are 90% of the population has it. And if you find it in 90% of the population, guess what? I think they're just missing the last 10%. Now, non-steroidal anti-inflammatories. Peptic ulcers are more common in older adults. Why? Because you're in a chronic state of stress. You're not dealing with your symptoms. You're in a possible sympathetic dominant stress from joint discomfort, or maybe you're in this incredibly psychotic system that's not telling you that your body is in a constant state of regeneration. That as you age, you produce a little bit less stomach acid, so you have to juice and blend in order to break down those nutrients so that you can build your healthy body. Does that make more sense? So it's not that you're older, you start to develop this stuff. It's that if you're in a psychotic society that uses a chemical to alter your physiology, because remember, your doctor is smarter than your own physiology. When they go in there and they say, oh, you have high cholesterol, take this chemical that was given to me by my pharmaceutical rep, okay, from my pharmaceutical education, that says my drug company is a lot smarter than your own physiology. Think how psychotic that is. Good God. Okay, now non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, Advil, Motrin, Aleve, ibuprofen, all the other stuff, okay? It blocks COX-1. Now, this enzyme helps prevent ulcers by enhancing blood flow to the stomach and increasing production of protective mucus. And you're going to see this, and this is really important that you understand the mechanism or suspected clinical pharmacology, how it works. So a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory blocks an enzyme that helps protect the stomach. Now, the stomach is protected by mucus, by the bicarbonate, and by blood circulation of the stomach lining. Non-steroidal anti-inflammatories hinder all of these protective mechanisms, and with the stomach defenses down, digestive juices can damage the sensitive stomach lining, causing ulcers. Why? Because if you limit the goblet cells, and that's what this crap does, it allows the normal flora in there to be pathogenic and start to get in there, and they start to grow in healthy tissue that they shouldn't be in there. Now, antibiotics, the clinical levels of antibiotics can cause oxidative stress, damage to DNA, protein, lipids. I mean, antibiotics, and this is where we see the leaky gut. The bacteria in there eat funguses, yeast, molds. They're fantastic. Anything that decreases, so it's a battle in there, always. That's why you always got to take healthy bacteria-containing foods. If you eliminate the bacteria, then the yeast and funguses grow. And funguses develop these tendrils that bore holes in the intestinal tract, creating a leaky gut. You know, it's kind of like if you've ever seen, I think the wolves can change a river. It's like wolves up in Yellowstone. Literally, started to decrease the population of deer that were eating all the grass, and I mean it was just a whole ecosystem thing. But that kind of stuff happens in your intestinal tract. Anything that damages the normal flora allows pathogenic stuff to take over. Now you got undigested proteins leaching into the system. Okay, they haven't survived. They haven't been tempered by digestion, and your immune system sees these undigested proteins from the leaky gut get in the bloodstream. It flips out. So you're talking a hypersensitive immune system reaction. How can that be bad? Well, early Parkinson's disease. Intestine might be an early sign of Parkinson's disease in response to environmental toxin or pathogen. Really? Parkinson's? Isn't that a neurologic disorder involving the brain? Yeah, it's called a gut-brain connection. Wow. What about Lou Gehrig's disease? Data suggests that systemic LPS, which is lipopolysaccharide concentration levels, and activated monocyte and macrophage may play significant roles in the pathogenesis of Lou Gehrig's disease. So you look at this and you think, wow, that is why 80% of the immune system is in the gut. Does that mean that we have to pay closer attention to what goes in it? Can you imagine how stupid this is? To have a medical system set up where you got a gastroenterologist separate from neurology? Separate from immunology? How can you do that? You can't. Okay, unless you're a pharmaceutical industry that's running the education of the medical system. Oh, wait, okay, this might get by the censors. There's a condition with an injectable medical product, okay, that they use in the military, and it caused a lot of things called Gulf War syndrome. And this injectable medical product, inside of it had silicone, aluminum salts, and other defined and non-defined immune-mediated diseases, both animal models and human models. Silicosis, Gulf War syndrome, macrophage, and post-vaccination phenomena. Yes, I did that for the censors. Okay, don't know how that got in there. Oh, this is actually what Asia looks like, okay? The one on the left where you see that big expanded intestinal tract, that's supposed to be the size of a stool. So it's supposed to be a little bit smaller than the vertebrae. Does that look smaller than the vertebrae or 3 or 4 times bigger? Yeah, that's an expanded intestinal tract from vaccines, medication, toxic food, or compromised nerves. Luckily, that's her, I think it was like 3, 4 months, 5 months later. Okay, and here's one, normal kid on the left, injectable damaged on the right. Oh, this kid was cool. Okay, he's, God, I think he's 10 or 12 years old now. But I asked, you know, what name can I do? Because he had some bowel disorders. But, you know, look at his history. Ulcerative colitis for 3 years and you're only 8. Hospital birth, mom had Pitocin, which initiates in uterine contractions, and typically before the cervix is dilated, and the kids usually causes neck damage in kids. Also, 60% increase in vaccine damage if the mom's given Pitocin. Fully vaccinated until 6, so that's 49 shots, multiple courses of antibiotics from ear infections, and steroids. So I said, buddy, I want to tell you your story because, you know, I think it was like 2 weeks and he started to eat better and you're not afraid of food. What name do you want? Because I can't use your regular name. He said, Nacho Business. And I said, you really want me to put Nacho Business on your... Yeah. I said, okay, buddy. So this is Nacho Business. I mean, you got to love the kid. The kid patients are so cool. There is no filter. And thank God we're starting to lose that filter thing. Okay, so these are the kids. Now remember, you're talking a human being that's been around for over 100,000 years, that's designed to thrive on our planet. Okay, and digestion is the key for building your healthy body. And here are 7 and 8, 9-year-old kids with ulcerative colitis and bowel disorders. And you want to treat it with what? A medication? Okay, that stops the inflammation, which is actually how the body heals? Who comes up with this? Okay, we got to take a second look at our environment. Okay, because if you had a caribou or buffalo or beaver or anything with bowel disorders consistent with what these kids are going through, would you check for, oh, I don't know, environmental toxins? Okay, or we just go in there and give them anti-inflammatories and steroids. Again, you wouldn't do that to an animal, but why not do it to a small child? Who cares about them? Glyphosates. This is a powerful antibiotic. This means every non-organic bread in America is going to have this stuff sprayed on it because you increase production about 20%. Now, okay, this thing, celiac disease associated with imbalances in gut bacteria can explain by the known effects by glyphosates. Interdisciplinary Toxicology Journal. Glyphosates is a mineral chelator. Remember, you cannot utilize vitamins if you don't have minerals, and this chelates or draws the minerals out of your system and destroys the normal gut bacteria. And I'm telling you, we get patients from everywhere, 500 miles east and west of the Mississippi. It is a cancer belt. Why? Because they're weakened in the immune system. It's mind-blowing. Increased intestinal permeability. Oh, wait, didn't we just read that that was involved in neurologic damage like Parkinson's and Lou Gehrig's? Yes, glyphosates. Welcome to our government. Okay, that's a mandating this stuff. And what do most of the doctors say? Don't worry about it. It's generally recognized as safe. That's called the GRAS certification. Do they do any studies on it? No, not really. Concentrated animal feeding operations. Okay, you know, you raise a sick animal, you produce a sick product, and you're going to eat this and your body becomes this. So how do we fix this? You are designed to live here. Take the Purell and throw it in the trash can, take your gloves off, take your mask off, okay? Start breathing fresh air. Face diapers are not good for you. Okay, I mean, unless you're horribly ugly, then it's a community service, okay? So that would be okay. But now, healthy nerve supply. So you have physical, chemical, or emotional stress. Look at your system. If you're taking drugs, find the problem. For God's sake, do you want to put a Tylenol in your mouth that goes in your intestinal tract, through the wall, into your liver, and for what? Joint pain? When your body is giving you symptoms that your body is trying to regenerate? Good God, how stupid that is. Healthy saturated fats, vitamin D3, Lugos iodine, Plant-based mineral supplement. You got to get the plant-based mineral supplement. Like sea plants are the best. So whatever every culture you're in, get some of that. Vitamin C, healthy organic oils, fermented fruits. I mean, look at this. Remember, your digestion, this is why you're alive. If you have poor digestion, you will not live healthy and long. That's the bottom line. If you change your digestion, you change your health. Okay? I mean, it's really that simple. Recent studies that demonstrated probiotic bacteria have beneficial effects in these diseases. And what diseases? Inflammatory bowel diseases. That's ulcerative colitis, celiac disease, gastrointestinal effects, critical illness, effectively by improving the intestinal barrier. What was the other one? Oh, Parkinson's, MS, or Lou Gehrig's disease. Okay, all linked to intestinal barriers. Goji berries. Berries are so nutrient rich. Now remember, when you're talking about food, riots start when food production is 40% of the income. And if anyone knows about the inflation that we're going through, a month and a half ago, I built a goose enclosure that took 3 sheets of plywood. They were $20 each, $18 for each sheet. This week, they're $100 per sheet. So it went from $18 to $100 in a month. Okay, now food prices will do the same. So when you're getting this stuff, frozen organic berries will last a long time. Do not get 1 pack, get 2 or 3 packs, okay? Go in before the rush starts. Don't get 1 can of food, get like 3, 4 cans of foods. I mean, a lot of the markets are limiting your acquisition of this stuff, but just realize that when wintertime hits, there's not a lot of countries we can import because of the response to the current political environment. Depletion of glutathione. Now, glutathione protects your brain and protects your liver. What depletes it? Tylenol, acetaminophen. This stuff, if you have this, do not even give it to your neighbor, okay? That's bad karma, okay? It depletes glutathione. Glutathione protects your brain and protects your liver. Just for the heck of it, type in acetaminophen depletes glutathione. And this is the most prescribed drug in the world. Do you see a problem with that? Yes. It goes in your mouth, in your stomach, through your intestinal tract, through your liver, and damages the liver and destroys your immune system. To build up glutathione, how about onions, garlic, cruciferous vegetables? Oh my gosh, this sounds good. Okay, whey protein, raw dairy, it's fantastic. Oh my gosh. Sprouted grains, this is actually good for people with gluten sensitivities. It works. Just look at how your body works, okay? Know your body, and you are designed to live here. You are designed to live here. What you put in your system becomes you. If you have a health problem and you're taking medications, find or talk to your doctor and see if you can find a solution. If you've had your organs removed, like a thyroid removed, you are going to have to take Armour thyroid or ground up pig thyroid, nature's thyroid to survive. Okay? If you're planning on getting your thyroid removed, find a doctor that can save the thyroid. Okay? Just look at it. But if you're taking a drug, find out why you're taking it and find a doctor that's sharp enough to get you off of it. Okay? And what you eat becomes you. Now that part, I think, will probably get by the current censorship and the current truth ministry. As remember, we are not in America any longer. Okay, we no longer have the protection of our Constitution or freedom of speech. I would have liked it. That would have been fun. But we are going to have to leave this, but we're going to be going into the censorable portion. I just want you to know that no state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privilege and immunities of the citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive the person of life, liberty, property without due process of law, or deny any person within the jurisdiction the equal protection of the law. So that means that the government shutting down your business, saying that you're essential or you're not essential, was done illegally. Okay? But, try and evict your governor. Okay, ours disagreed with that decision. So now Victor is going to be shutting it off because this next part, we're going to talk about statistics And please get to Dr. B VIP, share this stuff. I'm glad you were able to watch it. But we're going to talk about relative risk versus absolute risk. And even though we're talking about statistics and facts from the Lancet, which is a medical journal, I don't think that the censors will go along with it. Are we clear? 10 seconds? 2 seconds? 1 second?